a white female human, a young white female human jawbone has been found on the strip where Natalee Holloway last stayed, the hotel strip there on the Aruban beaches. Straight out to Gene Casares joining us from the field, legal correspondent in session. Gene, what do we know?
Well, we know that Aruban forensic officials took this jawbone. They have confirmed that it is the jawbone along with an attached tooth of a Caucasian young female girl. It is in the hands of The Hague tonight. Their forensic institute, they are trying to determine if it is that of Natalee Holloway. They have Holloway's DNA at The Hague, and they will make that confirmation shortly.
And Jane, isn't it correct that this is found on the beach, the hotel strip, where Natalee last stayed, which is consistent with everything we have known all along?
That's right, and what you're saying is that all the statements of Joran Vandersloot saying that her body was taken out to the ocean, out to the water, dumped in the swamp, could be corroborated by this physical evidence.
Well, surprise, surprise, it washed back to shore, Joran Vandersloot. Bet you didn't count on that happening. Straight out to Jossie Mansour, the managing director and publisher of Diario. He's joining us from Aruba. Jossie, what do you know about the discovery? Tell me everything you know.
You know, it's big news here because everything seems to point to a link with the missing girl, Natalee Holloway. It belongs to a young Caucasian woman. It was found on the strip of beach where Joran admitted he asked a friend to dump Natalee's body. I mean, the ocean was very rough. The waves came, they ate up some of the beach, but they returned a jawbone, a lower jawbone with one tooth in it. The police acted immediately on it. That was found on Friday. On Sunday, 2 police officers traveled to Holland with it, and the tests are being done right now, and we may, as soon as tomorrow, know the results.
Joining us, Jossie Mansour, the managing director and publisher of Diario. I want to go now to Dr. Howard Oliver, former deputy medical examiner, forensic pathologist, joining us out of L.A. Dr. Oliver, thank you for being with us. Doctor, my understanding is there's at least, which means more, one tooth still attached to the jawbone. Where are they going to get DNA?
They can get DNA from the pulp, the inner parts of the tooth. Explain. Well, the pulp contains the nerves and some of the nutrient materials. It's inside the tooth. It's usually retained. It's not destroyed by the water and the elements. They would have to break the tooth open to get to the pulp, though.
And what we are hearing, Dr. Oliver, is it's going to be easier for them to get the DNA out of the interior of the tooth as opposed to out of the jawbone. Why?
The pulp is retained much better because the enamel of the tooth protects the pulp.
Thank you, Dr. Oliver. We are taking your calls out to Christy in North Carolina. Hi, Christy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, dear. What's your question?
Well, first of all, thank you for taking my call, and you are an angel on earth.
Thank you. I'm going to play that back for the twins when they turn about 15 or so.
Oh,
what's your question, love?
My question is, since it's been so long and this has probably been in the water, will DNA show up?
You know, Dr. Oliver, DNA shows up years and years and years later. In fact, now with new forensic techniques, we go back and look at cold cases that were 50 years ago, and there's DNA there. I think I've got Dr. Oliver with me. DNA, does it age, Dr. Oliver? If it's kept intact, does it age?
It should still be intact. It's protected by, like I was saying previously, it's protected by the enamel of the tooth, more so than the bone marrow, which can dry out. But the pulp in the tube stays relatively intact.
You know, I can compare it to this, Christy, North Carolina. It's like, of course, the nerve is dead, the tissue is dead, but compare it to dried blood. You can get DNA from dried blood. You would look at this jawbone and these teeth that are on it, and it may look dead, it may look dry, and you wouldn't think there's any DNA in there. But Think of dried blood. You can easily get a DNA match off dried blood. To Ellie Joseph, what more can you tell me, Ellie?
Well, Nancy, one of the reasons why this find is significant is that it matches up with one of the versions Joran van der Sloot gave about what happened that night. You remember the interview that was set up, hidden camera, by Peter de Vries, an investigative journalist in the Netherlands. In that version, he told a friend of his that Natalee passed out or started shaking, had some kind of seizure while they're on the beach. He had a friend drop her body at sea. If that is what really happened, it is possible this has washed ashore from that incident.
Now, hold on. Are you talking, I'm getting all of his confessions confused,
Yeah.
Ellie. Okay, are you talking about the confession where he's in the car with a German journalist and he talks about her dying on the beach? Or are you talking about the one where he says she's using alcohol and cocaine? Not true. And she's on a balcony and gets sick and trembles and falls off the balcony.
Well, I'm talking about the first one you're talking about, Nancy, where he says that her body was disposed at sea. But you bring up an interesting point. This area is also close to Bobali Puddle, which is another location he claimed he dumped the body. It's only a mile or so from there.
Take a listen to Joran van der Sloot confessing to Natalee's death.
How do you know she's dead, Joran?
I just know.
How did you see it? Did you feel her pulse? Did it go in one time?
I just touched her and there wasn't anything anymore. It was over.
Did you try to resuscitate her?
I tried everything. I even lifted her up. And in one time, Patrick, it was just like in the movie. This is what she did.
Shaking?
Yes, very much. So I said to myself, what is going on?
What did you do then?
So I stayed with her. There was nobody there, Patrick.
Of course there was nobody there. It was night, Joran.
So I was talking to her, talking to her, talking to her, and she didn't say nothing. Nothing.
So how long was she shaking for? Do you know what that is?
I don't know.
An epileptic attack or so?
I don't know.
She was shaking? Was there foam coming out of her mouth?
No, no foam coming out of her mouth. I didn't see that.
Okay, Ellie, where at that time is he saying he was on the beach in relation to where this jawbone has been found?
Right. Well, he said that he and Natalee are on the beach. I believe he says they were kissing, and she suddenly goes into some kind of seizure. He says that he couldn't tell if she was alive or dead. He called a friend of his that they wrote that the friend actually took the body out to sea in a boat very near this. He says, you know, they were on this strip by all the hotels in Aruba, and that's the strip where this bone was found.
We are taking your calls, but right now, unleash the lawyers. Michael Griffith, international criminal defense attorney who has practiced in Aruba as well as in Peru, where Joran van der Sloot is currently behind bars. Raymond Giudice, defense attorney, Atlanta, and Elizabeth Kelly, defense attorney, Washington, D.C. All right, Michael Griffith, if this turns out to be what we think it is, the remains of Natalee Holloway, what are the Arubans going to do now? All these years they said, we don't have a body. We don't have a body. Well, they've got it.
Nancy?
Yes?
Well, they may have the body, but they have to show that Joran was, first of all, how she died, and that Joran had something to do with this. And Nancy, you know what's unbelievable? I have a book in my library written by Vincent Bugliosi, about 20 years old, called "And the Sea Will Tell," and it's about a woman who died in Palmyra Island in the Pacific, and the skull washed ashore about 2 or 3 years later. This is very similar. And remember, Nancy, one thing too: even if they can prove the cause of death, if they can't show that he had something to do with this, at the very best, they might only be able to charge him with the improper disposition of a dead body, which of course is not as serious as murder.
To Raymond Giudice, defense attorney, Atlanta. Ray, come on.
Well, Nancy,
I prosecuted cases. Everybody's prosecuted murder cases with less evidence than this.
I'm about to agree with you, Nancy. In every major jurisdiction in this country, with or without the jawbone and the tooth evidence, this case would be indicted. Van der Sloot's trump card, his ace card, the Aruban legal establishment and law enforcement. Keystone Cops then, Keystone Cops now.
For those of you just joining this, a human female, white female, young adult white female jawbone Massachusetts tourists on the Aruban beach stumble upon the jawbone right now. It's at the Netherlands Forensic Institute being analyzed. Have the remains of Natalee Holloway finally been found?
I'll come through the TV and I'm going to kill him. I mean, and peel his skin off his face.
Joran van der Sloot.
He's got an account to settle.
The main suspect in the Natalee Holloway disappearance.
Admitting he lies to people.
How do you know she's dead, Joran?
Knowing what happened to Natalee Holloway.
I just know.
Joran has lied from the beginning.
And I want to kill him.
Anybody confess to anything?
I just touched her and there wasn't anything anymore. It was over.
Prosecutors in Aruba have said, on the record, we have nothing to corroborate that.
We watched the Natalee Holloway movie on TV. Parts of the movie that were true and parts that weren't true.
5 years after Natalee Holloway vanished.
The prosecutor's office of Aruba sent us some bone material.
A bone fragment found on an Aruban beach.
You want answers now, and you want them today.
We are going to research the bone material.
Could this be the key to solving the mystery of Natalee Holloway's disappearance?
We are taking your calls live. For those of you just joining us, a Massachusetts couple, tourists in Aruba, stumble upon a human jawbone. They immediately take it to the front desk of their hotel, the Phoenix Hotel. It's right there on the hotel strip where Natalee last stayed, had her bags packed, ready to go for the next morning. She never came back to that hotel room. Right now, that jawbone and teeth attached to that jawbone are at the NFI, the Netherlands Forensic Institute. Have the remains of Natalee Holloway been found? This on the heels of her mother, Beth Twitty, traveling to Lima, Peru, where she snuck in to the jail and confronted Joran van der Sloot. Take a listen.
Just listen to me for a couple of minutes. I won't do anything till I get some information about Natalee. I want to know what happened. I want to move on, Joran. If it wasn't an accident, tell me. I don't know. It's too late for Natalee, but it's not too late for you, Joran. I just wanted to get face-to-face with you. I don't have any hate in me. Joran, I've been a school teacher for 30 years, and I felt like there was a real sincerity that you wanted to get this monkey off your back. And I thought that's where we were going. I know you want your life back, but you're looking at spending the rest of your life in prison. You have your own life ahead. You're the boss of you. But here, Joran, the time stands still. The clock stops. You're just stranded in time.
I hope you can understand it's very hard for me to talk to you. It's really not easy. I'm really doing my best. I know you have a very good heart. I know that for a fact. It is the least I owe you for sure. I've made so many bad decisions, and all for the wrong reasons.
Joran, you don't need to lose your life in prison and be sitting here when you're 60 years of age and be sitting here insisting to me that you don't know what happened. Tell me what happened. Let me take her home. I wanted to see him. I wanted to get face-to-face with him. I wanted to peel the skin off his face. I'm thinking this is it. This is my one chance, and I'll never get this chance again. My eyes met his. We were face to face. The only thing I had left in me was just to speak from the heart.
We are taking your calls, but right now to Mark, class president and founder, Class Kids Foundation. Mark is joining us out of San Francisco. Mark, weigh in on two things tonight to start with. Number one, the discovery of a jawbone, a white female young adult jawbone found on the same strip where Natalee was staying, and Beth traveling all the way to Lima to confront Joran van der Sloot.
Beth Holloway is the mother you would want if you were a missing child. This woman has moved heaven and earth to locate her daughter. She has absolutely no fear. I believe that all they've ever wanted to do was to find their daughter and bring them home, bring her home. And I believe that now they may have accomplished that goal. I don't think that they expected they would find her alive, and this will then give them an opportunity to bury their daughter and begin the healing process.